Okay, so now we're gonna be learning how to properly use the blueprint itself, how to use what is called the event graph. So you can see this map right here corresponds for the level blueprint, and that tab in particular is called event graph. Okay, so now on the event graph, we're gonna start with two default nodes. Basically, these two nodes are gonna be created already from the beginning. They are gonna be the event tick and event begin play. So these events basically get triggered uh, after something happens. For example, for the event tick, this event gets triggered every frame, every tick. So if we want something in our game to happen in every single frame, to be activated like every single frame, then we will need to basically enable this and use it. For now, we're not gonna use this one yet, so we can just leave it here in the bottom. Now let's focus on this one, the event being begin play. This event gets activated when the game first starts. So this one we're gonna be using it, but right now it's disabled by from the beginning. From default, it's not really activated. So to activate it, we need to actually connect it with another node. Okay, so basically how we control our blueprint is by having different nodes where every node represents like a different event that it's getting triggered, that it's going on. So here, this one it represents that the level begins, right? But then let's do some practice to activate it and see how this logic will flow. Okay, so what I'm thinking we can do for practice is creating a blueprint that allows the game to start, but then after, let's say, 5 seconds, force you to quit automatically. So how can we do something like that? That's not something we can do like here with objects, right? So that's something we will need the blueprint for. Okay? So just by the way, what we do with blueprints, all this logic and all this event control, that's something that we could also do with C++ files, with C++ programming. But that's a little bit more of an advanced methodology. So that's something you're gonna learn later down the line. Right now that we are just kind of like doing introductions and learning the software for the first time, we're just gonna be using blueprints, which in other words is a visual representation of what we can do with code. It's like an easier, more convenient way of applying functionalities in our program without having to necessarily code ourselves. Okay, so let's start with this one. Okay, we have the begin play. Now, what did I say we wanted to do for the example? The level starts, it waits around 5 seconds, then it quits. So for that, I'm gonna need a node called delay. This one basically it's a node that just waits for an amount of time to then do something else. So here, the delay node, how did I put it in here? I did right click, and then when you do right click, you get this window for like all the different nodes you can apply. So you usually, because there's so many of them, you usually just want to search for what you want. So I type delay, and then that is my delay node, this one right here. I clicked, and then boom, it showed up in my event graph. Now to actually make it work, I need to connect the begin play to the delay. Okay, so basically here, this is kind of like an output pin. So I'm saying the play begins, and then I connect, basically the output of this connects with the input of this. So now delay is the one that is getting triggered. And what did I say before? I wanted to wait, let's say 5 seconds. So I'm gonna put here 5 for this parameter. So wait 5 seconds, and then what's the other thing I said? We wanna quit the game after the 5 seconds. So I'm gonna drag and drop here. That's another way of creating a node. Instead of right clicking, you can also kind of like drag and drop. And then I'm gonna say quit game. Okay. So this quit game is basically a node that quits the game automatically when it gets triggered. So as you can see now the logic is ready. The game begins, it waits 5 seconds, then it quits. Okay, so now that it's ready, before we run it, we do have to do something else that is easy to forget, which is actually compiling the blueprint. So here in the upper left, we see this compile symbol that is on yellow. That means, you see, as you can see in the description, Deri needs to be recompiled, so we need to click this. We click on it, and then, okay, now the compile has been successful. This means that the blueprint that we did here, it hasn't been turned into machine code yet. Only when we compile it is that all of this becomes code that the machine can understand. So now that I compile, now it understood the instructions. I save. Let's call this blueprint. Let's call it blueprint level. Yeah, blueprint level. Okay. Oh, actually, it's already called. Let's call it BP. Whatever. The name doesn't really matter that much. BP as in blue. Okay. So now my event graph is done. I saved. I compiled. Now let's give it a test. My game starts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. It quit automatically. That is what we wanna see happening for our example. So make sure yours is also quitting after 5 or so seconds.